this video, I'm going to show you exactly how you can catapult your wealth from zero using small deals to a massive net worth by taking advantage of legitimate options that exist in our financial industry, yet nobody really wants to talk about them. You can do this all while having your same W-2 job. And don't worry, it's not like an MLM, and I'm not selling you a course or telling you how to wholesale real estate. I'm telling you how to take advantage of the real systems that exist right here. If you start this course at 20, you'll go from living in a unit to owning these buildings by the time you're 35, and you could retire and do whatever the heck you want. And guess what? You'll have all the passive income you'll ever need. But here's the thing, you have to take advantage of the gateway. You have to go through what I call the gateway drug to real estate, to acquiring massive wealth and controlling real estate wealth to be able to have enough money to get to one of these buildings. That is, of course, unless you started with $1 million already like Grant Cardone did, which he mentioned in his millionaire booklet, to buy his first unit deals. Come on, if you already have $1 million and you want to invest 300 grand into big units and buy 3 big unit deals, you don't need the info in this video. And look, I'm not just a real estate agent trying to tell you to buy some extravagant $1 million, $2 million house and sit on the net worth. And I'm also not going to tell you to buy a red-tagged fixer-upper meth house. I'm going to show you how to build real estate wealth a lot easier and in a much safer way. Well, how come Uncle G hasn't told me the advice you're going to tell me? Well, look, Uncle G is right about a lot of what he says, but one of the reasons he doesn't talk about these advantages is because the bottom line is they do create so much wealth for you, and then you don't need to invest with Uncle G because you can do a lot of the big deals yourself. And by no means am I saying don't invest with Uncle G. I'm sure his company's great and his options are awesome, but you gotta be able to go through the gate. You gotta get the information to go through the gateway and learn the real secrets of real estate. And who the heck am I? Well, I'm a father of 2 and I'm a real estate investor. And here's why you should listen to this. I run a real estate company and a construction company now with a combined 15 employees. And because of the financial path that I've taken, which you can adopt as well, we know that financial freedom is not an issue for not just ourselves, but for our children and our family. So stay tuned, we're gonna share with you the exact insights and you'll be able to take advantage of them. You don't even have to quit your job. In fact, stay at your job. It'll help you do it.
About to leave, already packing. Come with me, I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know.
Look, a lot of people don't like banks, but I'm gonna show you how you can leverage an army of small deals by acquiring one property every 1 to 2 years, and how to take advantage of getting the correct property to turn that army of small deals into the ultimate leverage for massive deals. So what are some of the downsides of big deals like this? Big apartment buildings, big commercial units? Well, here's the thing. Everything over 4 units is considered commercial. Everybody knows I'm a big fan of giving you both sides of the picture, so let's analyze this for a second. Commercial deals, some of the downsides. The fees are through the roof. You have to put way more money down to get into commercial deals. That's why Grant so confidently says all the time, you ain't gonna be able to do this deal. You're not gonna be able to do this deal with just 20% or 25% down.
On 900 grand, you're not going to put 600 grand down. You're going to need to put 900 grand down.
Because he knows the banks generally only lend up to 65%. So what else? I mean, who cares? All right, so it's a little bit harder, but it's not just that. It's not just higher fees, higher interest rates, worse loans, and the fact that, you know, you have to put more money down. It's way more than that. It's easy for Grant to say because, you know, he had $1 million sitting around from his speaking career. It was easy for him to buy big deals. And think about it, there's a reason these big deals always have on-site property managers. It's because they're management intensive. What I'm gonna show you is easy. And why is it that Grant doesn't talk about those small deals? Because his fund isn't made up of those. So what am I gonna do? I'm gonna teach you how to take advantage of 2 brothers. It's gonna blow your mind. In case you're wondering, it is completely legal. I am not suggesting you do anything illegal. At all. I don't know where you would get such an idea from that it's okay to break the rules. That's not what I'm suggesting at all. 80 years ago, 2 brothers were born, and they don't have the best of reputation, although they don't really deserve the bad reputation they have. You know a little bit of the history about them and how they actually tried to prevent what happened. But big picture of it is these brothers still exist, and because they exist, you're able to hack real estate finance and do exactly what I'm telling you to do to create massive wealth. So who are these two brothers? Well, they go by Fannie and Freddie. That's Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And guess what? Because of them and any kind of real estate that's residential and either one unit, duplex, triplex, or fourplex, you can hack yourself to this wealth method. Watch this. Let's get into it. And we're gonna do this in a little bit of like a Q&A style. So why do I bring up these two brothers that have a bad reputation? Because they're the reason the United States is so special and the 30-year mortgage exists where it doesn't exist anywhere else. It's the only place in the world where after 30 years, even with a tenant living in the property, and especially with a tenant living in the property, you can have a property that's completely paid off, the bank can't raise your rate, and they could never call you up and say, hey, guess what? We're changing the terms of your loan. Fork up the rest of the cash like what happened to Dave Ramsey. That doesn't exist anymore. There's so many protections in place, and this loan product is so amazing, and we're gonna use that, not the 15-year loan, which is a good product as well, but I don't encourage it for this example, and you'll see why. But with no experience requirements, the ability to project rental income to help you qualify, cheap interest rates, fixed for 30 years, and the opportunity to do this over and over and over again is what we're going to talk about here. Here we go, Q&A. So what's the secret, Kevin? How am I going to pull this off? How are we going to make this happen? This is what you're going to do. You're going to buy a 1 unit, 2 unit, 3 unit, or 4 unit building every single year or two. You're going to buy that property with a 30-year fixed rate loan. You don't want to lock yourself into higher payments with a 15-year loan because then it makes it a little harder to qualify for the next one. Hi there.
Watch this. I'm going to get a 30-year mortgage over here. Shit, I'd get a 60-year mortgage if I could. Why? Because they're paying for it. I'm not.
And if you don't have any money, that's okay, because you're gonna buy a deal that actually makes sense. You're not gonna buy a house that's beautiful and totally fixed up, or a duplex that's dialed in, and you're not just gonna buy a house where Uncle G says, oh, the house is the biggest death trap, because guess what? The house can be a death trap. You know when the house is a death trap? It's a death trap when you plan to stay there forever and spend a bunch of money trying to customize it to make it perfect for yourself. Here's what you gotta buy. Don't buy the house that's move-in ready. I want you guys to buy the cheapest, worst house that is cosmetically dated, but has some of its systems fixed up. Like it already has a new air conditioning, new ducting, has a new roof, has a new water heater, plumbing, electrical, but it's got the old shag carpet, it's got the wallpaper on the walls, and everything about it is just, ew, it smells like dogs, smells like cats. Then you're gonna fix it up while living in it to turn it into something that is rent ready. You're not gonna put a $50,000 kitchen into it. You're gonna put a $7,000 kitchen into it, and you're gonna turn the property into a rental property within a year or two, and then you're gonna do it all over again. You're gonna keep doing that. But what about if you have kids? Well, that's why it's a good reason to start before you have children, so you can actually live there while you fix it up and take advantage of those homeowner interest rates and those homeowner loans and fees, which are way better than investor loans. Investor loans, you're usually putting down 25%. That's a lot of money on a $300,000 house. A quarter of that, that's a good chunk of change compared to the opportunity to put something, to lock something up, to lock up a $300,000 property with just 5% down. That's amazing. Oh, and the other trick, if it's cosmetically dated enough and you fix it up, you can get rid of that mortgage insurance pretty fast. So don't even worry about paying that mortgage insurance for the long run. Hello. Pit stop. How about an example of one of these deals? Let me take you to one. I just lost 60% of my pizza. Hope that doesn't happen to my real estate. So how do you specifically make this hack work? Well, here's what you do. When you buy a property as a first-time home buyer or whatever, you can get in with a little bit of money down. And with that little bit of money down, you can now get into controlling real estate. And rather than being a tenant, you can now control this property and you get to rent out parts of the house to other tenants. For example, you buy a 3-bedroom house, rent out 2 of the rooms for $800 a piece. Now half or more than half of your payment's probably covered. Now you own and control real estate, and you're probably paying less than you were when you were renting. That's why I say, if you can, do this before you have children. Kids make a lot of things harder. I got 2, they make laundry harder, they make moving harder, and they make buying a fixer-upper a lot harder. But don't feel bad if you already have kids, you can still make it happen. Okay, so what you're saying is I should buy a fixer-upper with little money down and then fix it up. Well, where am I gonna get the money from to fix it up? There's a special loan program called the 203K, which actually lets you buy a property that's a fixer-upper. Let's say you buy a place like the YouTube flip that we're doing. We really owe you guys a YouTube flip video update on that. You buy it for $482. It's worth $650 fixed up. You could go in there with 3.5% down, and think about the margin of safety you have, first of all. Then get a $50,000 loan to fix it up rental grade, which is different from flip grade. You don't have to do as much to turn it into a rental after you live in it for a year, of course, as you do maybe for a flip. You could borrow the $50,000 to fix the place up. Another part of the American dream. Okay. So I could buy like a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house for 3.5% down. That is worth way more, but won't I just lose out to a bunch of like cash offers or flippers or, you know, people who can close faster than I can? Nope. Because when you buy one of these properties, you're buying what's called in the wedge of the market. You're buying so low because it's a fixer-upper and nobody else wants it, but you're buying higher than what the flippers can afford to pay because they have to build in selling costs and holding costs. You're going to be living there, so you could always pay more than a flipper and still make a ton of money turning the property into a rental property after you live there and get it rent ready for a year. So what you're saying is then get the crappiest property you can, one that has like original windows and like a shot roof and a shot garage structure and a laundry room that gray water's out and then gray water's up slope and drains somewhere. I don't know, maybe back into the laundry machine. Not to mention it comes with old spare vehicles and locks that don't work and windows that are original and cracks on the inside of the house that look really bad. Nope, that's not what I mean. Special kind of property. You could make it happen with one of these, but let's go drive to a special kind of property where you can really take advantage of the wedge of the market. That is, getting a property for less because it needs work, but not actually having to do that much work. Here we go. This, folks, is the house to buy. Check this out. Undervalued because the seller didn't want to spend money to change the carpet. This is the kind of house you want to buy. Something where it is cosmetically dated, it smells like dogs, it's got these weird outlets and switches that are like on the floor for specialty access or whatever. It's got a tight kitchen. The garage has been converted into this probably nicely done and insulated kind of workshop room, but it all looks dated. It looks like it's right out of the 70s. Aside from everything that's so original about this house, like this old kind of slider, medicine-y cabinet thing, and this funky looking laundry room with these pipes that are just ready to burst in terms of the laundry machine, all of the cosmetics have been left for you to deal with. But check this out. They upgraded the plumbing. They upgraded the water heater. Every single window in the house has been replaced. The roof has been replaced. Furnace and ducting has all been gutted and replaced. This is perfect. They left the wallpaper and the carpet that looks horrible and smells terrible. They left the easiest stuff to remove. They left all of the stuff that basically makes buyers say, ew, I don't want to buy this. This is like from a different decade. This isn't me. This is going to take way too much work to scrape off all this wallpaper. Yet because of a property like this, a buyer can come in and actually take advantage of the fact that they left the cosmetics and didn't do the hard stuff. Now they could go in and spend $20,000, repaint, refloor the place, and maybe update the kitchen a little bit, and boom, they're done. They got a fully remodeled house. All the expensive stuff was done by somebody else. So that is an opportunity. Ugh. All right, folks, it's time to talk numbers. So yeah, first of all, is this a single family? Yup. But guess what? It's one where you can get it so cheap that when you buy it, you actually end up coming out ahead in the long run. And that's what you want to do. You don't want to buy this and be trapped in it like Grant Cardone says. You're going to move again after a year or two. Remember that. Keep that in mind. And now we're also going to use California numbers. So don't get mad at me. These are the numbers that I know are real. And you're just going to have to scale them to whatever your numbers and prices are. So let's say you bought a house for $480,000. And for this scenario, let's just say you put 20% down. Whether you got gift money or your parents let you some money or co-signed with you or whatever. That's about $100,000 down. That leaves you with a loan of about $384,000 and some closing costs. Now let's say you put $50,000 into it. This one here just needs like 20, but let's say you put 50 in because it needed a little bit more work. And you remember, you just want to bring it rent ready. You don't want to overspend on some fancy wood cabinetry and fancy toilets and Italian tile, because all that crap's a waste of money. Your tenant doesn't care. You just need some stuff that's clean and livable. After you're done fixing up the place, it's just like the YouTube flip. You put 50 into it. After you're done fixing it up, guess what? The house is now worth $650,000. Your loan is only $384,000. So what does that mean to you? That means you have $266,000 of leverageable equity. But most importantly, you only put 150 grand into it. So the market basically gave you $100,000 because the market undervalued the deal so much because it needed some cosmetic work. That's one of the problems with commercial deals. You can't find those wedges where the market can give you 100 grand every time you find a great deal, live in it, and then turn it into a rental. Why? Because in commercial deals, you get all of these huge corporations like BlackRock that competes with Grant Cardone and all these other companies. They don't care if it's got shag carpet and wallpaper, but home buyers do care. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take advantage of the fact that homes are super liquid. People are buying homes in every market. And that same goes for duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes. You take advantage of the Fannie Freddie loans and you buy these properties in the wedge of the market where you're every purchase planning to have a market increase of $100,000 on top of the money you put into the deal. And you're gonna do that 12 times. Now, just for fairness here, I wanna do this comparison and give you the rent numbers quickly. If you put 20% down on this deal, your total payment, vacancy, repairs, everything would probably be somewhere around $2,700. You could rent the house out for about $3,000. So yeah, 20% down doesn't create a great cash flow, right? That's actually why on commercial deals, you always see 35% down because it creates a way better cash flow. And then you could run your cap rate and your NOI and all that fancy crap. But we don't use that stuff here. You don't use that here because you're trying to get the value. You're not trying to get the cash flow. I don't care if I get an extra $12,000 a year. I want the 100 grand because I bought it in the wedge, and I'm gonna do that over and over and over again. And I'm gonna do that with 30-year financing because the tenant's gonna pay the loan for me, and then my risk is lower. I'm not doing 15-year loans because that means I'm locked into a higher payment. I don't want to be locked into higher payments. I'm not even paying the loan. And you gotta lose the idea that, oh, I'm paying the bank interest. That doesn't matter. You're not paying the bank interest. You're paying people who bought mortgage-backed securities, which is basically 1,000 loans like the ones you got, chopped up into little pieces of paper and sold off as bonds to people in like Sweden and stuff like that. And they get a little check in the mail every single month called passive income while they're sitting there retired. That's where the interest is going. The bank doesn't care. The bank just wants to make your loan and collect the fee. That's it. But wait a minute, Kevin. I don't have $150,000 to invest. What do I do? Oh my God! So I gave you the 20% down example because that leaves you with about $200-300 of cash flow every single month when you rent that place out, that $650,000 property, when you rent that out for $2,900 or $3,000 a month. But remember, you can scale these numbers to whatever price range you're in. It doesn't matter. The wedge still exists. But what if you don't have the money? Here's what you do. Hey! What's that?
Car.
That's a car? 2 cars? Oh my gosh, where are you going? Where are you going? Where are we going?
We're gonna go train track.
Oh, this is your train track? Show me. Wow. So now let's say you put 5% down or 3.5% down. Well, guess what? Yeah, are you gonna have to pay more on your loan? Yep, but that's the way it is. You know what you still get though? You still get to capitalize on that $100,000 in market gain of value. But come on, you're letting the bank take 95% of the risk or 97% of the risk. Oh well, you have to pay a little bit more on your loan. You still get the 100 grand because you gotta buy a good deal. So how do you find good deals? Well, here's how. Generally, if something needs cosmetic work, it's dated and looks like a fixer, it's probably gonna have a wedge in between it and what the fixed up properties are going for. And you could usually run the comps to make sure that you've got the correct margin of safety. That's pretty good, Jack.
Roundabout.
Oh, you found a roundabout.
Look at the steeple.
There's a steeple? What?
Look at the steeple right there.
Oh my gosh!
Oh my God.
Where are all the people? How do you know when you're not buying in the wedge of the market? When you buy something that's move-in ready. If you buy something that a flipper's selling or it's new construction, you're not buying in the wedge of the market. Does that mean it's bad? No, but it doesn't mean you're gonna be able to take advantage of getting 12 properties and taking advantage of that $100,000 market gain the market's just handing you because you bought a good deal, and you're gonna do that all the time. Just keep doing it. You keep taking advantage of that 3% down, 5% down, 10% down, whatever money you saved up, keep doing it over and over and over again. That's how you're gonna get to those 12 properties. And think about this. If you had 12 properties and the market basically gave you $1.2 million of equity, and you use deals like this, you're probably gonna be controlling somewhere around $6 million of real estate. If at that point, plus the money you put into the deals and market appreciation, and you wanted to sell everything and just go buy a $20 million deal, you could probably do it at that point. So that's how you could catapult these small deals by taking advantage of the wedge of the market and transition to them into massive deals.
Hey, Kyle's calling you back. Do you want to tell him what you were going to tell him?
Come over to Grandpa's house.
I didn't tell him to say that either. That was completely him wanting to call you when he did. Okay, see.
Bye.
Bye. Nice snot. Ooh, lovely. Let's wipe that snot. I don't like it. Do you want me to wipe your snot?
No.
You. Ew!
And remember, I did mention it's a lot harder to take advantage of this wedge and buying these fixtures and living in them for a year and then moving again. When you got little kids like this who one stares at you really cutely and the other one pushes buttons on the camera that you're using. What are you doing? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
I have to do it.
I know you want to do it. I'm doing it right now.
I've been waiting to open this up since I was about 6 months pregnant when I received it as a gift, and today's the day.
Now, can you do this with a duplex? Yep, all day long. You can do it with a triplex or a fourplex as well. The only potential problem with units, like 2 units, 3 units, 4 units, is usually you get landlord investors who don't care if the property needs work, and they pay way more than your usual home buyer competition will, and then they don't do anything and just rent it as is. You know, it's kind of like slumlordy. But they tend to drive up the prices of duplexes, tris, and fourplexes, which gives single families that typical $100,000 wedge opportunity. But every market's different, so you really want to analyze your market to find where the inefficiencies are. And generally, it's home buyers that create the inefficiencies because they ain't going into it with an investor mindset. Now, what kind of credit do I need? Well, realistically, you get the best rates with anything higher than a 740. If you don't have a credit card yet, open a freaking credit card already and pay it off every single month in full. And you don't have to carry balances to increase your credit. But look, if you have a 640 credit score, you can get into real estate as well. Some people even get in with as low of a credit score as 600. The barriers to entry of residential real estate are super low. But you still want to make sure you can afford the property. That's the most important thing. Worst case scenario, you're making the payment, so you have to be comfortable knowing that you can afford the payment. Well, what about vacancy? You don't have to be concerned with people just leaving the property vacant for months and months at a time. No. If you price your real estate correctly, it will rent, especially single families, and generally you have way less turnover in single families. The same actually goes for duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes. It's generally the big apartment buildings with the on-site property managers that have the vacancy problems because they've got constant turnover. That's why they have on-site property managers. Because guess what? Anybody who lives in an apartment building wants to generally move and not be living around nothing but renters all the time. People like living in a community where there's a mix of renters and homeowners. But what about qualifying, you say? How am I going to keep qualifying for these properties? Here's the beauty. That second property you buy, you get to project 75% of the rent you're going to get when you rent out your first property towards your qualifying ability. That means basically you're using your future tenant's income to help you buy your next property. What about for property 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12? Well, every property before the one that you're vacating now, you get to use actual rents. So that means they look at your tax returns and see what your actual expenses were and your actual income was. So if you can operate the property at anything better than a 25% expense ratio, so you remember they use 75% with projected rent, but if you only spend 20% and that's what you actually show on your taxes, then they're only gonna ding you for 20%. And so you have to qualify for way less, especially once you start getting cash flowing properties, which you will over time as rents go up. It becomes easy to qualify with rental properties. But that is also why having a W-2 job is nice. It helps you sort of fill in the gap of your needs in terms of what you need to qualify for. You just gotta keep student loans and consumer debt, cars, couches, furnaces, refrigerators, anything that you could finance that's not real estate, you gotta keep that at like 0 ideally. Sometimes people send me emails and they say, hey, look at this awesome deal I found. It's probably in the wedge of the market, right? And I look at it and it's literally a completely remodeled property and it's selling for what the market value should be. So no, you're not buying in the wedge of the market, you're just buying because it's pretty and it's easy and you can put a tenant into it right away if you wanted to. Not the kind of property you want. What about taxes? Grant Cardone says you can't write off more than $1 million interest on houses.
Okay, this debt, up to $1 million, you can write off interest. On this debt, there is no limit on interest.
Well, he leaves out the small detail that as soon as you turn the property into a rental, you can write off as much of the interest as you want. In fact, you can take the exact same write-offs as you can in commercial real estate. In some cases, you could even take better tax write-offs because the depreciation periods are shorter. You don't have to know exactly what that is, and you should always talk to a CPA for financial and tax advice or whatever, because I'm not a financial advisor. Who cares? Whatever, okay? You get the point. The bottom line is simple, though. You still get to deduct property taxes, insurance, maintenance, management, reserves, utilities. You still get to depreciate the property. It doesn't matter if it's a single family, if it's a rental or it's a 50-unit apartment building, you get the same tax benefits. Now, what if you're like 20? Should you just wait 6 years until you're in a relationship and you're financially stable enough? As long as you can afford the payment. You know you could rent out all the rooms, you could rent out the whole freaking house if you needed to and go move back in with mom and dad, and you'll be totally fine. Just have fallback options in place and get in, because the sooner you start buying, the easier it is to move. And I'll tell you, because we did it, it was a whole lot easier to move when I was 19, 21, and 23 than it would be now at 26 with 2 children, 2.5-year-old and a 3-month-old. Come on, they don't like being around drywall dust and fixer-uppers, you know what I'm saying? We can make it work, it'd just be harder. What do you have there, Lauren?
I have a glass of my Hello Kitty sparkling rosé.
Oh my goodness! What about maintenance on houses or single family or duplexes, triplexes versus these big buildings? You know, I mean, come on, a single family, you might have to water the lawn, right? Some of the stuff that Grant is saying is comparing rental units, like buildings like this, to homes people are living in. Talking about rental properties here, duplexes, triplexes, single family rentals. We have our tenants take care of our landscaping on our rentals because it's their responsibility, and then if they mess it up, it comes out of their deposit. Here's the other thing. Big apartment buildings usually have lower credit standards because the people with really excellent credit, they don't want to live in an apartment building. Instead, they want to live somewhere where other homeowners are. And these are also the people who don't want to get a judgment against them and their credit shot when they mess up a property or beat up a property. You know, it's the people that get hurt who rent to tenants who flash cash at them and don't run credit and just take somebody's word or vibe for it. Those are the people who get cooked when it comes to being a landlord. So don't be one of those people and get a property manager. Do yourself a favor. The maintenance goes down a lot. What about the short term in units versus the approach I'm recommending? Forget the short term. You don't need to focus on your exit strategy in these deals. Although your exit strategy is a whole lot easier at 1 to 4, because guess what? The more people can finance these deals, the easier it is to get out of the deals. BlackRock decides to stop buying, and all of a sudden BlackRock was your only customer.
And I'm gonna sell it to BlackRock.
Then your big units are sitting on the market. People are always buying houses and they're easy to finance. Thanks to Fannie and Freddie, our brothers. What about taxes? And if you did decide to exit? Well, if you actually did decide to exit one of these deals, 1031 exchange, never pay taxes. There's some more details to that and some more requirements for that, because really you're just deferring, but there is a way you can never pay taxes in real estate on gains. So what if prices fall? Well, who cares? They'll go up again. In the meantime, keep renting out the property, keep paying off that loan, but don't add principal.
I'm gonna finance $100 million for as long as I can. Completely contrary to what Dave Ramsey, David Bach, Susie Orman, and your mom and dad told you. They're like, no, pay everything off. Why would I want to?
There's no reason to add principal, because then you'll just have to refinance to take that cash out, which costs you money to be able to use that money again. No. Save the extra money, throw it down onto your next deal, because remember, if you're gonna buy one every 1 to 2 years, you got some saving to do in the meantime. But if you can't save up 3.5% or 5% down every few years, maybe there's a different problem you need to address. Now, what about the BRRRR method? Yeah, some of you have probably heard about this. It's not a bad idea. The only danger is over-leveraging. I purposefully like going in with little down on properties, but getting such a good deal so that I'm buying in that wedge and the market is actually making my margin of safety closer to 25%, because I think I'm getting a 20% bump and I put 5% down. Plus the money I invest for fix-up, I could very quickly put 5% down on a property, fix it up, and get to 20, 25, 30% equity. That's a margin of safety I like. I don't necessarily like constantly refinancing that equity out, because I do want a margin of safety.
The people with all the money on the planet use debt. Why? Because they're not paying for it, somebody else is. It's called OPM. Other people's money. And the best form of other people's money is the bank. As long as you don't over leverage.
So don't get trapped behind the gate. Make sure you figure out how to get past this stuff. Start investing in small deals so you can make the big deals happen later in life.
Don't wait to buy real estate.